Time for a Buckeye breakdown with our team. Nicole, Shearin, Adam King, 10 TV, Tyvis, Powell, Tim May, 97.1 The Fan. You know, Adam, the old saying goes, defense wins championships. The Buckeyes lose a bunch of people from a team that won the national title a year ago. They have a new defensive coordinator. Can this defense simply reload?
I've got your answer and one. I think this defense will be better than last year by the end of the season. I am very, very confident in this defense. One, they have the best player in the country in Caleb Downs. Two, the defensive line was everybody's concern this offseason. I think they quelled a lot of fears there. I'm excited to see Edric Houston as defensive tackle. I think he's a game changer. C.J. Hicks. You look at Bo Atkinson. There's so many guys here that are ready to step into that role. I'm no longer worried about defensive line. The linebackers, Sonny Styles is a first-round pick. It's been remarkable to watch his growth. Arvell Reese, he just seems angry all the time. I would not want to play against him. And then the secondary is going to be the best in the country. And oh yeah, you got a 3-time Super Bowl champ that now just has all these different gadgets and gizmos that he can move around, do whatever he wants with, and make life terrible for the opposing offense.
Following up on that, Tim May, Matt Patricia, the new defensive coordinator. What are your expectations for him?
My expectations are high. I know there were some doubts cast when he got hired from the standpoint of how things went for him at Detroit. I go, well, look back at Nick Saban, how things went for him at the Miami Dolphins till he got back into college football. Bottom line with Matt Patricia is he's been in the NFL, is big on the mix and match game, which I think just takes this defense probably to another level. Do I think it'll be a chemistry experiment that needs to gel? Absolutely. Maybe as the game goes on, definitely as the season goes on. But he's got all of the players are raving about him and what he has brought to the program. Is kind of a step up maybe from the Jim Knowles defense. I think he's going to be quite successful, but you got to give it time.
Nicole, Texas feels pretty good about their offense led by Arch Manning. Everyone acts like he's this young kid and whatever. This is his third year in the program. I want to say he started 3 games a year ago for Texas. With that said, how big of a challenge is he going to be for this Ohio State defense?
I mean, Arch Manning is a great quarterback. I still need to be proven that he deserves all the hype that he's getting. I want to see him out on the field. But listen, yes, this Ohio State defense had to reload. They had 14 guys go to the NFL last year. But like Adam said, I'm not concerned about this defense with Matt Patricia kind of guiding this defensive unit. Yeah, Arch Manning's going to give them some problems. But if you look back at last year in the Texas game, all they had to do was rattle Quinn Ewers. If they just rattle Arch Manning's cage, his composure is going to break down, I think. So I think what they need to do is really tap into the linebackers specifically for Ohio State defense. Because, yeah, your defensive line is important. But like Adam said, you've got the unit, the line, the linebackers, and the secondary. I really don't think they're going to have much of an issue containing Arch Manning in the pocket. I think if they wreak havoc and make him nervous, he's a young quarterback. Young quarterbacks get rattled in those situations. So I'm not super concerned. Yeah, they're up for the challenge, and I think it's going to be hard, but I'm not concerned about it.
Tyvis, I'm sorry. Tyvis.
I was just going to compliment her point, but Dom didn't want that, so I apologize.
Dom said no.
Terrible
Thank
point.
you.
Very good. Tyvis, they have Arch Manning, but the Buckeyes have a guy named Caleb Downs. What do you expect from Caleb Downs this season and in this game?
Well, we know Caleb Downs is one of the smartest players in the game.
What positions he plays?
He's played safety.
What position did you play?
Just so happened to play safety. You know, it's when you're better. He is.
Oh, good.
It's not even close. No, I think Caleb Downs does a great job of understanding what an offense is trying to do, what they want to accomplish. Yep. Where does Arch Manning want to go? Who is his guys on specific downs? I think knowing those things and those key details, it allows him to be able to make those plays. Anticipation is the best thing that can happen to a football player in the game. Knowing that something is coming, anticipating and making a play. So with Caleb Downs, he's not just a post safety. He's not just a box safety. He is a guy that you could plug anywhere on that defense and he will make it work. So I think Matt Patricia will install him and have him do different things. If he's at the nickel position, you don't know exactly what to expect from him from the nickel position if you're Arch Manning. So I think disguising of coverage will be done in this game, which will confuse Arch Manning, which will lead to him making poor decisions, and that starts with Caleb Downs.
And we stay with you. Is this secondary And you know, it starts with Caleb Downs, but is this the best secondary Ryan Day's had since he's been at Ohio State?
When you look at the guys that they have in their secondary, they are definitely up there. I mean, you got IGB who came back, who wants to be a first-round pick, Jermaine Matthews, who every time we seen him out on the field, he's been electric. Caleb Downs is obviously one of the best, if not the best defensive player in the country. Yeah, I would say it is. Now that we sit here now as I'm naming them, and I thought about, just Texas's wide receiver. I did a little film breakdown on some of their receivers. They got a big body receiver with Ringo, number one. He's a very physical guy, but IGB is perfect for a guy like that because he's physical as well. And referees will allow the hand fighting to go on if both players are doing the same thing. Jermaine Matthews is perfect to go inside and play the slot against number 0 Moore. He is very shifty, really had some big games with Arch Manning in those 3-game run. So I love to see those matchups right there. So right now, I love our secondary versus their wide receivers.
Tim, the best pass defense is a pass rush. They lost a lot of guys from that front. But you're not concerned.
All 4 of them, yeah.
You're not concerned. Why? Why are you not concerned?
What do you mean? Who says I'm not concerned?
Well, you seem pretty positive. You seem pretty positive.
No, Kenyatta Jackson made some huge plays last year. Caden Curry has made some big plays throughout his stay there. Now they are the number 1 guys at the end spots. But Bo Atkinson is an upgrade from the standpoint of maybe some of the other guys behind them. I mean, they've got some depth on the edge spots with C.J. Hicks moving down there permanently. Finally, they found his proper home. And then right on down the line, where you are still concerned is from a depth standpoint in the middle of the defense. The 2 ties were big-time players. They were both drafted. I mean, they're gone. And now you got Caden McDonald and Edric Houston, who they moved down to tackle last year. People don't remember that. Some people think this was a bold experiment at the beginning of camp. No. And he made plays last year as a freshman. I really like where Edric Houston can go. Now is Will Smith Jr. Will Smith. We know what that name means, but Jr., it looks like he's ready to step up too, and they need something out of Tywan Malone finally, the transfer from Ole Miss from a couple of years ago. But if they get that, the thing I like about Matt Patricia, along with Larry Johnson, is they're really big on maybe rolling some of these defensive end types into the inside of the defensive front and getting the mismatches there too. So it's going to be a very curious game to watch in that regard of how they mix and match.
Nicole, Sonny Styles will get the honor, linebacker, of wearing that 0 jersey. What do you expect out of him this year?
Everything. I expect him to literally leave everything on the field this year. I mean, ever since he got to Columbus, he's been a special kind of talent. But I think this season, he really knows that he is the leader of this linebacker room. Obviously, last year with Cody Simon, he kind of was watching how Cody led. Now it's his time to step into those shoes. Sonny Styles is just such a talented athlete. I mean, he switches positions. That in itself, we can talk about that. But from a player's perspective, that's incredibly difficult. He learns a new position. He gets into that room. I mean, James Laurinaitis hypes Sonny Styles up all the time. He calls him the ultimate pro, that he's ready for the NFL. He's going to be such a difference maker out there, not only for his skill, but purely from the standpoint of this is his last year in the Scarlet and Gray. He wants to leave it all out there. He still has goals left on the table of getting to Indy, beating that team up north, raising that national title for the 2nd straight year. He wants to achieve those before he leaves Columbus.
But you said ever since he got to Columbus, and I go, well, yeah, that's right. He is from Pickerington.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Former 10 TV Athlete of the Week, Dom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, last thing with the defense. Back to Matt Patricia. Here's a guy that won Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. And I've got to visit with him, and he is having a blast. He is having a ball coaching college football at Ohio State. What do you think we're going to see out of his defense as he makes his debut at Ohio State?
Well, I don't know which camera focus. Here we go. For those of you that think Matt Patricia is going to be a disaster at Ohio State, I've got one message for you. The players love him. They are obsessed with him. They love his mind. They want to talk to him. They want to go through every different football scheme that he can think of. I sat and listened to him talk for probably an hour at the coaches clinic. And I love football. I know as much football as I could possibly read about. This man is so smart. It's unbelievable. And he shows it every day at practice. Yes, things didn't go great in Detroit. You can say all you want. If you're from Michigan, that's fine. He's not coming here to be the head coach. He's coming here to take an Ohio State defense that has unlimited talent and turn it into the top defense in the country. These guys love him. It is going to be a phenomenal year on defense. And if I'm wrong, clip it out and put it on a billboard.
All right, we're going to switch now to offense. And Nicole, Julian Sayin will make his first ever start at quarterback for Ohio State. I'm sure this young man's head is spinning. What do you expect out of Sayin?
I expect things to be a little rocky for week 1, but I'm not saying that he's going to have a bad game. I expect mistakes to be made, but I also expect him to find his groove and to get into the rhythm of things on Saturday. Julian Sayin is a quarterback that we've talked about for a long time. He has one of the quickest releases in college football. There is a reason why there is so much hype around his name. Yes, now that he's QB1, Ryan Day has always said, I wanted to name a starter before this Texas game because now Julian really knows this is your team. This is your offense. Let's get it going. Here are the reins. Take them as you will. So I think there are going to be some mistakes. He's young. This is his first start in college football. Yeah, his head's going to be spinning, but he knows the kind of talent and he knows the kind of depth that he has in each position group, whether it's the best wide receiver group in the country. He's got his running backs. He's got his talented offensive line, which I think is one of the best Ohio State has had in a very long time. I expect him to get his rhythm, to get his groove, and to perform well on Saturday.
Tyvis, as you look at the strength of what I think we all could agree, the strength of Ohio State's offense is the receivers and the tight ends, throwing the football. And I think a big reason why they chose him as the starter is his ability to throw the football. I think that gives them the best chance to win that game. With that said, what is keeping Ryan Day up late night worrying when it comes to his rookie quarterback?
Well, you always worry, did I prepare him enough? Did I give him every look that Texas possibly could draw up and try to throw at him on Saturday? That's the one thing that he's thinking about. And then another thing is, how will he respond to that adversity? Because like Nicole said, he's young. There's going to be something that happens in this game that's bad. How does he respond to that? Will he be a guy that tuck his tail, or is he a guy that has short memory and say, that happened, it's over with, I got to go out here and lead my guys? I'm hoping it's the latter. But if it does turn into one of those situations where the things start getting bad, can he get himself out of that funk? That is something that coaches worry about.
Tim May, you look at the quarterback battle, and the way I get it, it was very, very, very tight, that it could have gone either way. Where does Lincoln Keinholz fit into the program now, and what are you hearing about him? Might we see some packages down the road, a la what they did in past?
Yeah, he's the backup quarterback is what he is, and he's the backup quarterback at the reigning national champion. So I'm thinking he still feels pretty good about himself. He did extend this battle. But the bottom line, there's no surprise, in my opinion, finally, while we kept saying Julian Sayin, because you want to get an established running game going with your running backs, with James Peoples, the People's Choice, as I call him, C.J. Donaldson, all right on down the line there, Bo Jackson. You want to get – that wants to be the essence of your running game, much like it was in the playoffs last year, with your quarterback sometimes throwing a little dab in there. But the bottom line is about Julian Sayin, you want that guy in the back with all these receivers and this tight end, Max Clare, maybe the best tight end transfer in the country. You want him launching passes from the launching pad and hitting those guys. And so it's no surprise they went with basically the better passer in that regard. But Lincoln Keinholz has improved himself in every regard since he came from Pierre, South Dakota as an athlete. Now he's pretty much a football player who's bigger, stronger, and faster than he was then, and a much better passer. So he just has to stay on his P's and Q's, because you're the backup quarterback, and we all know one play away.
Yeah. Adam, the Buckeyes have great receivers. We can agree on that. The best in the country, Jeremiah Smith. Let's start with Jeremiah. How bad does he want this game? The last time they played, he had one catch for 3 yards in that semifinal game.
Every time I hear that stat, it just doesn't seem real.
No,
how in the world did he have one catch in that game for 3 yards?
It was a goofy little pass.
Yeah. And the way that he did is that Texas said the one guy we're not going to let beat me is Jeremiah Smith. Now, it's interesting, we were at Big Ten Media Day, and I asked him, what if that happens again? What is your plan? And he said he got frustrated in that game. He got a little bit too in his own head when you're playing in the Cotton Bowl. He's learned from that now, and he said, and I quote, you got to let everyone else cook. So at this point, I think if they're going to try to zero in, if they're going to take away Jeremiah Smith, that's perfectly fine. He will go out there and play the decoy all he needs to. Now, at the end of the day, you've got to get Jeremiah Smith against the number one team in the country more than one catch for 3 yards, and they will. But I do think that he harbors a little bit of, we may have beat Texas, but I didn't get to show Texas what I'm all about. And so I think he wants to go out there and prove it.
And we stay with you, Adam, and kind of it's like pick your poison, isn't it? If they want to double team, triple time Jeremiah Smith. Carnell Tate in that same game have 7 grabs, 87 yards. We saw Trey Henderson take it to the house. I mean, other guys were making grabs. Pick your poison, right?
Well, and Carnell is back, and that's huge. I mean, Carnell Tate is a first-round wide receiver that no one is talking about. And somehow, Ohio State has another elite talent, but he's getting slept on, which is he won't be by the end of this season, especially. I think there's a world where Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, and Jeremiah Smith, their stats look relatively similar because at the end of the day, they are going to hone in on Jeremiah. That's not to include Max Clare, who's going to be probably the best tight end in the country. C.J. Donaldson out of the backfield, who was a receiver. And then, of course, James Peoples, who Tim calls the People's Champion.
People's Choice.
People's Choice. I apologize.
It's okay.
But yes, if you would like to put 8 guys on Jeremiah,
yeah, remember in our summer show we did, I said, who's the breakout player from this team? And we were talking about Bryson Rogers. Mine was Brandon Ennis because now he is a full-time mix in that rotation. Also, he is a captain. That shows you what the teams think or what the team thinks about him. So there's a guy definitely keep your eye on in this opener.
Tim, we'll stay with the passing game. How about the tight end class they have now? To me, the greatest tight end classroom in the country. And you get this Max Clare to transfer in. You got Will Kazmarek. You got the list goes on. I mean, these are the best guys in the country.
Well, to date, Bennett Christian has the only touchdown catch from Julian Sayin.
Right.
As we all saw in that game where he caught a little crossing route and he took it down the sideline. Bottom line is, they feel extremely good. Ryan Day went out on a limb and said this is the best tight end group he's had here.
I agree.
At Ohio State from top to bottom. And it'll be interesting to see how much they're in 12 personnel when you got the guys we just talked about at the wide receiver spots and stuff, or maybe even 13 personnel, who knows, right? But the way they mixed and matched, like with Jeremiah Smith, they tried to get him in good situations against Texas last year, lined him up in the slot, lined him up tight, and things like that. But I think it was more they were reluctant to throw to him more than that Texas took him away. And there's a big difference there. And I think they all learned a lesson in that regard. But Max Clare, now you got a guy, a seam buster, man. Look out.
Tyvis, Ohio State had a strong running game a year ago. You had Trey and Quinshon. They have reloaded with the People's Choice, the People's Champion, James People.
So that's a thing.
C.J. Donaldson. Have they really reloaded? Do you like what you see?
I do like what I see. Now, don't get me wrong. Losing Quinshon and Travion, that's big because that was like thunder and lightning. Those two guys together were a force on the field, and they changed a lot of those games.
Yeah.
But when you look at a guy like James People or the People's Choice, you think of a guy like J.K. Dobbins. There's so many comparisons to J.K. Dobbins. And he was the guy who ran for 2,000 yards in a season here.
Yep.
So if James People is anywhere near J.K. Dobbins, he will be explosive here. C.J. Donaldson is that guy who can run through people. Love to see him out of the backfield. And the guy that nobody's talking about is Bo Jackson. They have to find a way to get Bo Jackson on that field because that speed is legit. When I watched him, he reminded me of Chris Johnson, CJ2K. Get him the ball or give the ball to him in space on some swing passes against some linebackers. It is a mismatch.
Hey, I feel like I'm in church because every time Tyvis is saying something, I'm sitting over
Throwing your hands up.
No, I'm wanting to go, amen. Amen.
Throw the hands
But I mean,
up.
think about it. They got Lorenzo Styles Jr., they got Will Smith Jr., and a guy named Bo Jackson. That's a pretty good roster.
Yeah.
All right, last thing for you, Nicole, and we saved the best for last. The most important thing.
You're talking about me? You saved me.
Well,
best
you're
for
most
last?
important
Oh,
and the
that's
best
so
for the offensive line. It all starts with the O-line. It doesn't matter. You could have the best skilled people in the world, but if you can't protect, if you can't block, it's going to be a long day. I would argue this is the best offensive line Ryan Day's had since taking over at Ohio State. It changed midseason a year ago with the injuries and everything. How good is this O-line in your mind?
Well, going off what you just said, Dom, from a truly personnel standpoint, yes. I mean, you've got Carson Hisman, Austin Saravel, Luke Montgomery, a guy like Ethan Onyanwa, who I think could be a huge difference maker as well. Tegra, list could go on. But what I think is really key about this offensive line is that they know how to face adversity and they battled right through it. And I think there is a lot to be said about an offensive line that knows how to go through that, losing your starters, reshifting the line, leading them all the way to a national title. I mean, Luke Montgomery got thrown into the fire in the Cotton Bowl with his start. So there's a reason why those guys knew what to do in a tight situation like that. I also think an offensive line coach like Tyler Bowen is incredibly talented, and I think he was a great hire for Ohio State. So yeah, I completely agree that if there's a lot of aspects of this Ohio State team this year that I feel really confident about, but I feel like last season there were some frustrations with the offensive line. This year, I don't think you're going to hear any of that. I think it's going to be all praise.
Last thing for all of us, Brian Hartline will be in the box. He will be calling the plays. Just real quick for all of us.
I think he's ready. I think he's ready for it. Yeah.
I think. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
No, I mean I think he's ready for it. He's prepared. He learned lessons over the last couple of years. I mean, when you just go analyze what Chip Kelly did, much less the fact you were in the room with him when a lot of these plans were taking place, that's got to enhance your big break here to be the offensive coordinator calling plays.
I think we heard the real answer there when Ryan Day said he always has veto power. And I think that's important.
He's the head coach.
Yeah, that's important in week one. But I think he's ready. I think it'll be great out there. I think nobody knows the talent better than Brian Hartline. You weren't going to go. You weren't going to go out there and find someone that was able to coach this offense better than him. And now we get to see. The crazy part is we have no idea what that looks like. What does a Brian Hartline offense look like? Does it look like a Ryan Day offense? Does it look like a Chip Kelly offense, a Dom Tiberi offense? We'll never know.
It looks like Ohio State's offense.
There you go. That's the company line right there.
He's calling plays from the Ohio State offense, he wasn't a guru that came in here with his own offense.
Exactly.
And they, like Ryan Day went ad nauseum about it the other day. This is all agreed upon before you go into the box. You've got a list of plays.
They know what they're going to
do. But you get to choose the play.
I will say, too, there's all this talk right now about how Ohio State had to replace an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, and there's all this negativity around it. I think that's a bunch of hogwash. I think I do. I think it's a bunch of hogwash because a guy like Brian Hartline, like we have all said, was already in the program. He knows this offense like the back of his hand. Yes, maybe he will have some more power, obviously, to make those calls. Yeah, Ryan Day obviously has the veto as well. And then we've hyped up Matt Patricia. I don't think anything else needs to be said. I don't think there needs to be any concern that there's two new faces leading both sides of the ball. I don't want to hear it.
I think we just found out with that use of hogwash that Nicole Shearin grew up on the only farm in Manhattan Beach.
And it is hogwash. Just remember one thing. When you lead the parade like Ohio State does, you're going to catch tomatoes because nobody likes the winners. And we all agree here that Ohio State will be the winners on Saturday. Keep it on 10 TV, 10 TV plus 97.1 The Fan for all your Buckeye coverage needs.